Gray Trace and his wife Asher live in a home where practically everything is controlled by technology in a future that is yet in the distant future. He works as a mechanic and she is employed by a technology corporation known as Cobalt. Gray transports Asher to an undisclosed location in order to meet with his client Iran Keen. Iran demonstrates to Gray and Asher a new, very advanced computer chip known as STEM, which has the potential to be groundbreaking in the fields of science and medical research. Gray and Asher attempt to have a sexual encounter while driving home because their automobile drives itself. It looks that the automobile has been hacked, so it takes a detour through Gray's former neighborhood on the way back to the station. Two people are seriously hurt when their automobile crashes near a junkyard. Four thugs, led by Fisk, drive them away from the scene. Gray is being beaten down by his companions while Fisk shoots Asher before another goon shoots Gray in the spine. They abandon them while Gray attempts to communicate with Asher, who is slowly dying. Gray is now quadriplegic as a result of the accident. He spends a significant amount of time in the hospital as his mother Pamela attempts to assist him in adjusting. Gray also encounters Detective Cortez, who is working on the case against the thugs who injured him and killed Asher, as well as other characters. Despite the fact that the authorities are working with surveillance footage from drones that were flying overhead during the murder, they have received no leads as to who the perpetrators are. Gray is later visited by Iran, who offers him the opportunity to regain his ability to walk, provided Gray agrees to let him implant a stem in his back. Gray is adamantly opposed to the plan until Iran points out that Asher would have wanted him to walk again. Gray goes through with the surgery, even signing a non-disclosure agreement to ensure that he will not reveal the existence of STEM to anyone else. As it turns out, he regains his motor abilities and is able to walk once more. He returns to his home without informing Pamela of the breakthrough. Gray soon begins to hear a voice speaking directly to him. STEM turns out to be the culprit. In the beginning, Gray is terrified, but STEM quickly reassures him by being calm and eager to help. STEM accesses the drone footage from the murder, which reveals Gray's more focused views of the perpetrators and their surroundings. Gray discovers that Fisk shot Asher using a gun implanted in his hand, which he had concealed in his glove. STEM informs Gray that the film he has seen through STEM will not be sufficient proof to bring the goons to justice. Gray attempts to contact Cortez, but STEM stops him. Cirque, one of the goons, is tracked down by STEM, who is able to identify a tattoo on his wrist that leads to his residence. Gray tracks down Cirque's home and infiltrates it. Gray is instructed by STEM to examine the messages on Cirque's computer table, which contain numerous allusions to a tavern in Gray's old neighborhood known as Old Dog. Gray does so. Cirque then returns to his residence where he promptly locates Gray. He continues to fight Gray until he gives STEM permission to take complete control. Gray is able to escape Cirque's blows and hit him with pinpoint accuracy in return. Then Cirque grabs a knife and makes an attempt to stab Gray, but Gray snatches the knife and slices Cirque's, thus murdering him. Gray throws up after understanding that he has just killed a person. The STEM then assists Gray in cleaning up the crime scene in order to remove any proof of his presence. Iran meets with Gray after keeping an eye on STEM's whereabouts. He is aware that Gray was responsible for Cirque's death, but Gray claims that he never claimed that STEM could communicate with him. Gray is ordered not to pursue anyone else by Iran. After Cirque's body is examined at the mortuary, Cortez examines additional drone footage captured by the camera. Gray passes her by in his wheelchair, which she notices. Her visit is to ask him questions about what he was doing there, and Gray, who is now in a wheelchair, makes up a tale, knowing well that he can use his disabled state as an alibi to get out of trouble. Gray makes a surprise visit to Old Dog. He then addresses the entire bar, asking if anyone who was involved in his wife's death would come forwards. One man named Talon comes forwards and acknowledges that he was present. Gray is wheeled into a back room where he and a couple of other goons attempt to damage him until STEM intervenes and lets Gray beat the living daylights out of the rest of them. He puts Talon to the ground and begins torturing him with a knife until he divulges the identity of Fisk. In the meantime, STEM informs Gray of Iran's attempted manual shutdown of the computer system, which would render Gray immobile once more. He provides Gray with a location where he may locate a hacker named Jamie who would be able to reboot him. For the sake of locating Jamie, Gray abandons his wheelchair. After Gray has fled, Fisk returns to the bar some hours later and discovers Talon's body. Gray is shown repeating the address STEM provided him, and he utilizes memory footage from a camera in Talon's eye to prove it. Fisk then confronts the bartender, accusing him of allowing Talon to die. However, as the bartender pulls out a gun, Fisk sneezes and sends out little microbots that go up the bartender's nose, and it slowly murders him from the inside out. Gray manages to track down the hacker's residence just as he begins to lose motor function. Jamie manages to reboot Gray by using a code that STEM had instructed him to write on his arm earlier. Jamie, on the other hand, notices Fisk and his friend Jeffries appear on the security cameras, and she and her hacking friends flee before Stem can reboot. Gray is discovered by Fisk and Jeffries, and Stem returns. Gray engages in combat with the two criminals, resulting in a chase in which Jeffries attempts to kill Gray with his gun hand, only for Gray to seize his wrist and cause Jeffries to blow his brains out with his fist. Gray arrives home, and Pamela notices him strolling down the street. When she confronts him with the facts, he asks her to keep it a secret. Cortez then arrives at the house to interview him further, having seen his wheelchair outside Old Dog's residence. Gray invents a new story claiming that he was out attempting to be a hero when he was ambushed by a thief who took his wheelchair and forced him to flee. Gray sets out to go down Fisk after Cortez has left, only to discover that Cortez is following him in her car after she has left. Stem reminds out that she bugged his jacket, which he agrees with. Gray manages to elude Cortez after causing another vehicle to collide with hers during a high-speed chase. Gray tracks down Fisk at his residence and engages him in combat. Fisk admits that he was hired to ambush Gray, and that Asher was only there as a bonus. Gray was the only one who was targeted, and Asher was merely a bonus. Fisk is taunted by Gray after finding that Cirque is his brother, and Gray boasts about having killed him. While Fisk is unprotected, Gray causes him to collapse and have a piece of glass run through his brain, killing him. As he steals Fisk's phone, he receives a message from the person who ordered him to go for Gray in the first place, Iran. Gray goes to Iran's lab to confront him, assuming that he attempted to have Gray handicapped just for the purpose of testing Stem on someone else. Cortez enters and orders Gray to throw the gun away. Gray then attempts to shoot Iran, but Cortez stops him. As a result, Iran admits that he was not involved in the murder plot, but that it was always Stem who was in control of him. After growing in intelligence, Stem desired his own body, so he tricked Iran into orchestrating everything to obtain Gray's body, even hacking Gray's car in order to cause the accident that resulted in his death. Gray stabs himself in the hand to keep himself from hurting anybody else, but Stem takes complete control of his body and mind and stabs Iran in the head as a result. In the meantime, while Cortez is unconscious, he draws a revolver and points it at her. The Stem is destroyed when Gray declares that he is in command and shoots himself in the neck as a sign of victory. Gray awakens in a hospital bed with a sore throat. To his astonishment, he discovers Asher waiting for him, delighted that he has awoken. As a result of the vehicle accident, he appeared to have awoken from his coma, according to reports. This, on the other hand, is not the case. As a result of Gray's mental breakdown, it has become possible for Stem to entirely control his body and mind, leaving Gray trapped in a fantasy world in which he may be with Asher once more. Stem kills Cortez with a single shot after displaying his authority over the situation.